Hello and welcome to MetaHealth University. Today I want to talk about a client I just had, and I want to ask you, what would you do with this client? So the situation was like this. He came to me and said, I have strong eczema on the inside of my arm, and the itching just started like 2 days ago. So it started to itch. 2 days ago, it became red and inflamed. So I know you listening, and you probably come from a very different variety of health professionals. You might be a traditional medicine practitioner, doctor, naturopath, chiropractor, energy medicine, work in complementary medicine, Chinese medicine, spiritual healing. And so our approaches are very, very different for the same client. But think about it for a second. What would you do with this client? Obviously, you would do a proper analysis and find out, what the diagnosis was, which in this case, the medical diagnosis would be an eczema. And so what would you do? Think about it for a second. I'm asking because I found, and in our trainings, as I said before, there are all types of health professionals. Not knowing MetaHealth, they start to look at that eczema from their old perspective. So if I'm a medical doctor, I might say, well, we need to just put maybe some cream that brings the inflammation down, some medication. And that is usually what we do to really remove the symptomology, to start the body allows to heal, which sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. Same with natural medicine, right? We know that there's a lot of natural medicine medications that we can use, homeopathy, Chinese medicine. If you're chiropractic, we might have a different approach. If you're going to energetic medicine, you might have a different approach. My point is that depending on what you've learned, your approach is quite different, right? And that is one of the biggest problems in healthcare right now, that we do not understand or be able to talk to each other depending on our education. And most of the educations are focused on that specific niche that we decided to train. MetaHealth is very different. No matter which niche or which field of practice you trained, MetaHealth is the connecting link. It connects everyone. So no matter which field you're in, if you know MetaHealth, the basic principles of MetaHealth, you can talk to a naturopath, a spiritual healer, a medical doctor, because your understanding of what is going on in the body, more specifically body, mind, social, which is a unit. We cannot separate these 3 units, body, mind, and social. You have the same level of communication. You know how to talk to each other, which I think is an essential piece in transforming healthcare. That we start to get away from these specialty trainings to more unified training where the basic information has to be the same. Otherwise, we have a hard time understanding. So let me tell you what happened from a MetaHealth point of view. Eczema, especially when the itching starts, is part of the regeneration phase. So you might have seen that graph that we use, but there's the 9 points or phases of healing, or the 5 points. The simplified version is the 5 points. First we have the stress phase, then we have the regeneration phase. So the inflammation of the epidermis skin, and eczema is the epidermis skin. It's not the dermis below the lower part of the skin, but the top part of the skin. So whenever the epidermis starts to be inflamed, red, hot, and starts to itch, we know that client, that part of the skin really is in regeneration. And before that was a stress phase. And that stress phase before that was a stress trigger. And we know that stress trigger has to do with a loss of touch, with something that has to do that something important that we wanted to feel or want to feel has been ripped apart, and especially be attached that meaning to this part of the body, which often is a hug. So if you want to hug somebody, then often this part of the arm or the inner arm reacts. Now with this client, after a few questions, it was crystal clear what happened. Just about 5 days ago, there was a big argument about divorce with a wife. And he was for 3 days tremendous stress. And he didn't notice, interesting enough, that that part of the skin already had some symptoms, was kind of whitish, kind of pale skin. It was less sensitive because the epidermis skin is less sensitive in the stress phase. And then they had a talk 2 days ago, just before the itching started. They had a talk and they decided to try again and to work it out. That moment is a regeneration trigger, because the stress of this divorce and separation from someone you love, you want to touch, is gone. The stress, the pressure is gone. Now the body, the skin, epidermis specifically, can go into repair, into regeneration, and the itching starts and the inflammation starts. So it switches from the stress symptom, which is pale white skin, to the red inflamed skin. And it took another 4 or 5 days until the inflammation went down, and I think after 5 days or so it was completely gone. But the interesting part is that still there was a strong connection. There was still a lot of emotion attached to it, which we had to address. The thought patterns were still about being fearful about losing someone. The social surroundings needed to change, to not just for the relationship, but also for the body to heal, because the body just expresses itself as a symptom, which has a deep meaning for us on a personal growth level, on a spiritual growth. So our symptoms are messages from our body, deep unconscious messages, what we need to change and adjust in our life. Very powerful if we have that kind of approach with our clients. So no matter what area you work on, if you understand or if you know the big picture of self-healing, how body, mind, social, which are a unit, go through the 9 points and phases, which emotions, stress triggers, thoughts, social surroundings, lifestyle, and organ tissue are interconnected, how they're interconnected, it changes your diagnosis and your therapy completely. So again, this was one example, and whatever client comes in, it follows the same mechanisms. That once you know MetaHealth, you can pinpoint exactly what's the root cause, what are the emotions that attach to it, the thoughts, and how does that, in which phase of the healing process or disease process, depends how you label it, is your client. Thank you again. Please share with your friends, with your health professional friends. There must be a share button somewhere on this screen. You can also post comments on the video screen page at the bottom. And I hope to see you in one of the trainings or webinars that we offer at MetaHealth University. Thank you, and I'll see you soon, and be MetaHealthy.